Yo, 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 what's up, peeps? So, recently, LDSWizard commented in my messages asking me to share the games that we played against each other. So, I'm gonna go ahead and make that happen. To me, they did feel like very unique games, and LDSWizard is the last person that I played twice against in 2020. Also, since we played twice in 2020, and the results are what you guys are about to see, let's just say I'm pretty sure we will have to have another match in 2021 to finally settle the score. Alright, so here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and hop straight into these matches because I have around like a 14-15 hour work shift tomorrow, and I just got off work. And let's see, I have like 7 hours until my next shift. So I'm not gonna waste too much time here. I'm just gonna go ahead and get straight into it. So let's have my man Nicol Bolas right there. Alright, so I'm just gonna show it from my perspective here. I know there's a way where I can show my opponent's top card of their library or whatever, so we can talk more about what they were ultimately thinking about while they were playing the matches. But I will save that for another day because I need to get some sleep, people. But you know what? Since LDSWizard commented, definitely making this video happen before I go to sleep. Alright, so let's see here. Alright, so for me, I lost the flip, so LDSWizard's going first. And obviously that hand for me is not a keeper. So mulligan that one. This hand for me also not a keeper. That's another mulligan. Also, just saying, Wizard began the game with 7 cards in hand, so as far as, the mixture of instants, creatures, enchantments, and all that stuff in his deck, definitely I want to say that they have a good composition because they didn't have to mulligan nearly as much, which is excellent. Alright, so this hand right here, I'm pretty sure I decided to keep this hand. I have not watched the video, but I'm gonna try to, figure out what decisions were going through my mind at that point in time. I think the reason I would decide to keep this hand is because I could get Tron over and over. So if I was playing against someone who was going to be destroying a lot of my lands, this is a hand that I would probably keep no problem. Well, let's see if that's what I do. Yep. So I choose the sphere and I choose 1 Sylvan Shrine. The reason why I don't choose a star is if the star gets made into a creature and it dies, I still get to draw a card, which is a very, it's a very good thing when you have Kind Grave Creator on the battle, especially if you just need a chump blocker. Absolutely comes in clutch. Alright, let's see. Alright, so opponent plays Watery Grave as the first card, tapped. And in my head I'm thinking, okay, my opponent's playing counter spells right off the bat and hand disruption. Let's keep going. So I play a mine, I play my star, and I go ahead and pass turn because ultimately here I'm trying to look for a turn 3 Tron, even though it's not always possible. But it does raise my odds of getting it when I have a card like Chromatic Star out because I do get to draw 1 additional card. And also, I have Oath of Nissa right here, which is something else that gets me to draw a few additional cards. Not draw, but I get to look at them, and if they are a land or a creature or a planeswalker, and that's what I want, I can go ahead and put that into my hand, the rest at the bottom of my library. Alright, so my opponent's turn, they played Bitter Blossom, and as soon as they did that, I was like, in my head, I was thinking, okay, I'm kind of interested in seeing what my opponent's playing here now. And I ended up getting Hagolos and an Ugin, which definitely is not a piece of Tron. And I ended up getting a tower. and another tower, and then a power plant. The reason why I chose the tower is because having 2 towers go to the bottom would mean that I would only have the possibility of getting 2 towers out of 49 cards. So my odds are a lot better to just take a tower and just put 1 power plant on the bottom, because I might draw into another power plant. But let's see how that plays out for me. Oh, actually I had 2 power plants and 1 tower. So I chose the power plant, not the tower. Okay, so then went to my opponent's turn. They made a fairy rogue. And I went ahead and played a forest. And like y'all can imagine, I'm just trying to assemble Tron at this point. So I need to go get a tower. I got hit with the mana leak there. No surprise though, because my opponent is playing blue-black, so it's to be expected. Then, pass the turn to my opponent. And they cast a Cling to Dust. And this is just to, exile a card from my library. And let's see, what else does this do? Exile a card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, you gain 3 life. Otherwise, you draw a card. So my opponent just did it here to just filter a little bit, which is excellent. And also has Escape. Exile 5 other cards from your graveyard. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its escape cost, which is, hey, it's always amazing when your spells can do multiple things. So yeah, definitely this spell is doing a lot. And I've seen it played a lot in the modern format. Man, it's kind of late. Stumbling over my words here. Alright, so let's get back to the game. So, Bitter Blossom goes off again. My opponent loses 1 life and creates a 1/1 fairy token. Then after that, my opponent attacks me with 1 fairy because, they had 1 fairy during their turn last turn, yeah. So it did not have Summoning Sickness. Here I'm looking for a tower still. I got a Razorek, a Forest. And I don't remember what the other card is, but either way, it's not the tower. So I just go ahead and choose Razorek here because I didn't want to just, try to rely too much on lands. I wanted to actually try to get the Tron. Here got the opportunity to cast an Expedition map. And very skillful there. Their wizard was right on time to cast a Remand, which did set me back a decent amount because that's 1 spell that I do have to cast. And then the follow-up, which was amazing and, well, very perfectly placed. I was hit there with an Inquisition Kozilek, so that's my opponent looking into my hand and taking a card out that's 3 mana cost or less. And making me discard it. So opponent chose my Expedition map there, which ultimately kept me off of Tron for at least a few more turns. Or at least this turn at the very least. Okay, so here my opponent attacks with 2 fairies, and I go to my next turn. Then my opponent casts a Vermilion Click. What this card does is they get to choose a card from my hand, and let's see. So I'm not making this up and paraphrasing it for you guys. When Vermilion Click enters the battlefield, look at target player's hand. You choose a non-land card from it. If you do, that player reveals the chosen card, puts it at the bottom of their library, then draws a card. Which, in my mind, I'm like, oh man, that's harsh. I'm expecting Ugin here, and sure enough, my opponent chooses Ugin. But, for me, I also now got a Sylvan Scrying in hand. But, like y'all saw there, my opponent was very accurate in making sure they played the Vermilion Click at the end of my turn. Otherwise, I would have been able to cast a Sylvan Scrying, and I would have been in a very good position. So yeah, opponent's playing amazing here. Alright. So, like y'all can imagine, here I get attacked by a whole bunch of fairies again. Then next turn, I'm like, let me go ahead and try to cast Sylvan Scrying. Nope, remanded. Now I'm thinking to myself, man, I wish I had gotten that land instead of Rob's Right, because at least I would have 4 mana. Okay, and like y'all can imagine here, a bunch of fairies coming at me again. Then I'll try to cast Sylvan Scrying once more, and it worked. Now I think to myself, if I can just go ahead and cast my Jace Architect of Thought and use his +1 ability, which makes it to where creatures that are attacking me has -1, -0. That would stop all his fairies from dealing damage. Then sure enough, Cryptic Command. Very skillfully placed and a little bit expected there. Nonetheless, perfect execution by Wizard right there. And that's how game 1 ended. So let me go ahead and throw Nicol Bolas up here and get game number 2 started. In my head, I was thinking though, after game 1, I was like, man, I kind of had an idea of how my opponent's deck would work, but I was just falling a little bit short because I didn't have enough stuff to pile on. It's like I had one thing, and my opponent was always like, well, you got one thing, I got one answer for you. And then he would just do the same thing over and over again, which is very excellent. That's what you want to do if you're a control player. You're trying to ultimately control the pace of the game. And as soon as you can get your opponent to only move at your pace, it's extremely easy to just win the game from then on. Alright, so let's go to the second game. So here now, I'm thinking about what my opponent's playing and how I could win against it. But at the same time, since I'm playing a combo deck, I'm also trying to play towards combo. Now you all saw those first couple hands, I had multiple of the same Tron lands, which is definitely not good. So I keep mulliganing here just to try to hope to get a land with 2 pieces of Tron in there and see how it works out. Here once again, you know, a Mine, Sylvan Scrying, Oath, Chromatic Sphere, but at the same time, 1 piece of Tron. Not good. Okay, so mulligan again, and now I'm like, okay, I have to stop. I can't go anymore because the disadvantage is just way too great. So I choose to keep 2 lands in hand, and I chose to go ahead and play a Forest first, just because my opponent didn't seem like they were going very heavily on counterspells, so I did not expect a Force of Negation, even though I would have not been surprised by it. So here, chose to play an Oath, and I didn't want to get another power plant because I knew if I missed Tron by more than 2 turns, my opponent was very likely to win this game because they do understand what they're doing with counterspells. Alright, so here I chose Sandra Flamecaller. Then my opponent went ahead and played Fairy Miscreant. Oh man. Maybe I should do this without my glasses. So, Fairy Miscreant enters the battlefield. If you control another card named Fairy Miscreant, draw a card. Which is pretty cool, especially for just 1 mana. And there I drew no lands. So like y'all can imagine, my opponent definitely is not slowing down here. Then I drew a tower and I'm like, yes, if I get another piece of Tron, I could play my Sandra Flamecaller. That'd be pretty sweet. Then I got an Oath. Like y'all can imagine, I absolutely go ahead and cast it. And lo and behold, I got a Power Plant and a Golos and a Doubling Season. All cards I don't need. The Power Plant, it's okay, but still not the Tron land that I want. So go ahead and play the Power Plant, pass back to my opponent's turn. They go ahead and play a Cling to Dust and exile an Oath. That way they can draw an extra card, which is excellent. Then they play their 4th land, and like y'all can imagine, I get attacked here again. Then I drew a Cascading Cataracts, course, I went ahead and played it. Then my opponent goes ahead and casts the Vermilion Click here. Now, like y'all can imagine, Emrakul was the choice there. And that's partly because they didn't really have a definitive way of winning the game at this point, at least from my opinion. So they chose the one thing that would be a huge target that could potentially easily change the flow of the game. At first, I was expecting Sandra, and I was kind of surprised when they didn't choose Sandra. So I was like, oh, shoot, I might have gotten lucky. Let me see if I get Tron. Or at least get another land. Then next turn rolls around, my opponent attacks me for 4 damage this time. I got a tower. I think to myself, it's either Jace or Sandra. And I'm like, you know what, let me go ahead and cast Jace. Because if I get something like, you know, a counter spell where I have to pay 2 or whatever, then I can do it. But my opponent was there to answer with a cryptic command. And so that sent me back to the drawing board again. Then their turn again, they go ahead and swing at me for another 4 damage. Now I drew a Chromatic Sphere, went ahead and played it, cracked it for a green. And I got a Congrade Creator here. And I'm like, man, I don't have enough mana to cast Sandra now, so I gotta go ahead and cast Karn. And lo and behold, they're always met with a ceremonious rejection. Which, excellent play by my opponent. You know, definitely controlling the pace of the game here, so it's extremely difficult for me to get anything to go off, so I'm here, you know, just trucking through it, just hoping that I get something. Now I drew a Nicol Bolas God Pharaoh. And this is a new planeswalker I added. I added just for the fun of it. Like, the main reason why is because I can +2 and make my opponents exile cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card, and I get to play it for free. Now, in most decks that wouldn't be such a great ability or whatever. But in my deck, because I can make infinite copies of Nicol Bolas Dragon God, it means that I can just go ahead and, you know, cast my opponent's entire deck. Which is hilarious, fun. It's something I wanted to do just for the fun of it. So yeah, I went ahead and added Nicol Bolas God Pharaoh in there. By the way, all 3 Nicol Bolases are extremely good, including the flip Nicol Bolas, which is also great. My one issue though is I don't have enough interaction with the flip Nicol Bolas yet. Or that's what I'm thinking. I'll probably start buying the flip planeswalkers at some point in time, but I have not decided to do that yet. So yeah, went ahead here, casted Sandra Flamecaller, and not surprised, my opponent hits me with a remand there. So it goes back to my hand. And then they go ahead and play a Brazen Borrower. And like you all see here, they have lethal on board, that's 7 damage, and I only have 5 life. And that's game. At this point in time, I said to myself, okay, I have to get a rematch against this opponent because I felt like I was just completely shut out. And I know a lot of y'all out there know what it's like to play against a counter deck, and it's like everything you try to do is just shut down. So I was like, okay, I need a rematch. And surprisingly, Wizard was up to the rematch. At first, I was not expecting the rematch because they didn't really speak very much during the match. But then, when I got a yes, I said to myself, okay, next game, I gotta bring it because I completely and utterly lost this game. Nicol Bolas. Alright, let's go to game number 2. Alright, so game number 2. I won the dice roll and I said to myself, yes, there's absolutely no way I'm not going first. So, go ahead and, choose to go first here. Then, first hand's not the greatest. So, I go ahead and mulligan here. And, let's see. LSDWizard also decides to mulligan here to 6 cards, which was great. Okay, see? Because I didn't freshly make this video, I don't even know 100% what's going on through my mind. In my head, I would have probably mulliganed this hand. But I guess I decided just to truck through it and see what would happen. But LSDWizard did decide to mulligan down to 6 cards. And they started the game with 6 cards in hand. And let's see what happens. I went ahead and played an expedition map here. That's just because I knew my opponent was playing counter spells. So I wanted to get that out. And it was also my only option. Here I was probably debating if I should go fetch a forest or not. Since I've already played a Cascading Cataracts, it means I've missed Tron by 1 turn already, which is not good. Especially against someone who completely understands what they're doing with a counter deck. I said a counter deck, I mean a control deck. Because ultimately that's what it is. It's controlling the tempo of the match. And like y'all see here, my opponent did play a Serum Visions. Draw 1, scry 2. Not that great in most decks, but in my opponent's deck, definitely shines through. Alright, so now my next turn, I cling to dust there again. So my opponent's definitely getting all the value of their draws right there. Now I go ahead and play a Blast Zone because I didn't draw anything else. And let's see what I decide to do here. I'm a little confused. I guess I decided to play Karn, Great Creator. Okay. That makes sense. And like y'all can imagine, Karn, Great Creator got countered. I was about to say cancelled. And then the Bitter Blossom comes out, which is the tool my opponent used last game to make sure they could ensure they had the victory. But since I top decked the Power Plant, it was time to go ahead and get a mine so I can get my Tron online. Go ahead and pass my opponent's turn, and like y'all can imagine, at my end step they do go ahead and sacrifice their Polluted Delta to go get, what was it? Sacrifice Polluted Delta and put a swamp, an island swamp, so they put a Water Grave into play. So now they're completely on the defense, ready for whatever I'm gonna do. So here I just go ahead and, you know what? I pump up my Blast Zone by putting an additional counter on it. So that way, whenever I destroy it, it destroys each permanent that has converted mana cost 2. And in this case, Bitter Blossom is right here, and that is what I'm aiming for. So game keeps going on. My turn comes around. On top, go ahead and play my land for turn, which gets me Tron online. Now I'm thinking to myself, I have all the options in the world. What do I want to play first? Now here I'm thinking, I have a lot of options here. That's what, 4 Planeswalkers in my hand. But I know for sure, if I play Razarak, I can tap a land and then untap a land. And also if I play Samut, I can go ahead and kill a creature. Same thing for Dragon God here. And then Ugin as well. So here I decided to play Razarak first, just to see if it would be countered. And it got remanded. When I was adding mana, I added mana to make sure I could cast Razarak and Samut the Tested, because I had enough mana as well. So I ensured that I had enough colored mana to be able to cast both. And one of them getting remanded, not a surprise. Like y'all know, opponents is pretty good at how they played their deck. So I choose to do 1 damage to the fairy and 1 damage to the wizard. Because, you know, I'm just trying to keep the field clear of threats at this point. Then my opponent does Inquisition Kozilek. And there was nothing in my hand for them to hit, I believe. Let's see, Inquisition Kozilek. I only had Razrak, Nicol Bolas, and Ugin in hand. So at this point in time, they knew exactly what I had. So then on my turn, my opponent casts a Vermilion Click. And I'm thinking to myself, man, they're probably going to take my Ugin. Because if they take Ugin, I can't, you know, exile everything. And there the opponent chooses Nicol Bolas Dragon God. And that's because Dragon God is the only planeswalker with a definitive win condition in his name. So everything else can be answered, but once Dragon God ultimates, it's pretty much game over. So, let's see here. Now I got Sandra Flamecaller. So I'm here stacking up abilities to pretty much board wipe. Now I don't want to go ahead and, you know, use up Sama the Tested here until she's dead. So I decided to go ahead and cast something else first. And this time, since my opponent is out of mana, I wasn't as worried about it, so I made sure I was able to cast 2 cards. I was looking to cast Razorek and Sandra Flamecaller here. So, went ahead and casted Sandra Flamecaller. And my opponent at this point decided to go ahead and say there's no coming back from this, because I'm just way too far ahead at this point. Also, something I don't know if you all noticed. So far, every game that's been played, whoever was on the play won the game. Which is huge. Alright, let's go ahead and go to the next game. Also, I just want to add, my opponent did join a room, you know, that said, just doing this for fun and YouTube content, so they kind of knew they were expecting something like a little bit crazy, but also fun at the same time. And I absolutely like the deck idea style that's being played here, because if you think about it, they're playing a fairy deck and they're mainly trying to use Bitter Blossom, which is a turn 2 card. After that, it's all about controlling the tempo of the game and making it to where you have enough fairies to eventually deal lethal damage to your opponent. So here, obviously, just 1 land in my hand, definitely not a keeper. Now, I saw this hand and I said to myself, I have to keep this hand. Let me go ahead and see what I got rid of here. Razorek. That's what I think. Yep, Razorek. That's because after my first 2 games, I guess last one would have made it 3 games total played against Wizard. I came to find out that I needed mana. Or I needed to make sure I had a decent amount of mana to go ahead and do things. Then got hit there with a Inquisition and lost my Chromatic Star, which means one thing I was going to use to filter through my deck faster is now gone. I played a tower there, because at this point I'm expecting a counter spell, you know what I mean? So it doesn't matter when I play Sylvan's Prime, there's going to be a counter spell that comes and gets it. So I go ahead and play a Sphere there, go ahead and tap it and sack it for a green. And I choose not to play my Sylvan's Prime yet, because like I said, my opponent is pretty good, so I'm expecting them to have a counter spell. So I kind of wanted to filter through and see if I would be able to get it naturally. And that did not pay off. But I felt like that was okay because I wanted them to tap out. But that did not happen, so I chose to just keep going slowly but surely. But here, Wizard's kind of getting a little bit ahead with, you know, playing the Brazen Borrower there and swinging in for damage. Then I see a Beer Blossom hit the field. I said to myself, okay, there's no way I can wait any longer. And sure enough, I got hit with a remand there. Then next turn, I don't know. Wizard loses 1 life and creates a 1/1 fairy token. But it comes into play with Summoning Sickness, so first turn, I'm safe. Then my 7th Scrying was chosen as a card to exile there. Maybe I should not have waited to go ahead and try to cast it. But that's also something, you know, I was kind of learning. Then here, Wizard, you know, making more fairies, playing more Brazen Borrowers. And ultimately, yep, I won the game. So countering just a 7 scrying in that game, along with discarding what was discarded, Inquisition, and I think there was 2 Inquisitions. So just countering 1 spell and doing Inquisition twice definitely ruined me that game. So I had to think to myself, okay, I need to learn a strategy how to play against an opponent like this. Now I've played enough games now to kind of have an idea of how the opponent plays. So I was like, what can I incorporate into making sure I win the next game? And what I decided to incorporate was this image of Nicol Bolas. I'm just joking, that's not what I chose to incorporate. Now that I'm thinking about it, I completely forgot the strategy that I thought about in my head. But I clearly had a strategy because I remember thinking to myself, okay, if I go against an opponent like this is what I need to do every time. And who knows, maybe it's because I'm too tired right now why I can't think about it. Or why I can't remember what it is. Because I never need to think about it. I just can't remember. But 16-hour workday will do that to you. I guess I should say 15-hour workday with, you know, coming home and then now being up for an additional hour or additional 2 hours. Alright, let's go ahead and go into this last game though. So I won the first game, I was on the play. Opponent won the second game. They were on the play. Now it's the third game. And I am on the play. And I think this is when Wizard made the comment that, I don't know if you noticed, but every time whoever's on the play has been the one to come out and win the game. Here for me, natural Tron. Tron doing Tron stuff. And I have a card to go into afterwards, which is amazing. And I have an Oath of Nissa and a Sphere. So if this was my starting hand, this would be absolutely amazing. But it is not. So I have to go ahead and discard some cards here. And I choose, obviously, Emrakul. And my Chromatic Star or Sphere, whichever one I had there. And I decided to keep this hand and start with it. And as y'all can imagine, just go ahead and play my Tron lands. And of course, Wizard there setting up the deck for, you know, future turns by scrying 2. And also getting the draw card before then. And yes, this is when Wizard made the comment that whoever plays first has come out the winner. And let's see. Go ahead and play a power plant there. Then I see a Bitter Blossom hit the field and I say to myself, yes, I can get a break. And like you all can imagine, I absolutely run away with it here and go ahead and cast Karn Liberated. and I choose to exile a land. The reason why I chose to exile a land there versus Bitter Blossom, it's going to take Bitter Blossom at least 4 turns to be able to kill Karn, because Karn upticks for 4 each time. So my opponent's going to be fighting with Karn there, just to try to keep Karn, from running away with the game by himself. So, yep, that's what I decided to do. Then my opponent played another land, and like you all can imagine, I chose to exile another land. And then I went ahead and played an Oath of Nissa, and a spell Shudder Sprite hit the battlefield, and like you all can imagine, excellently placed creature right here, and also doubles as a counterspell. So my Oath of Nissa got countered there. But I wasn't too worried about it because I knew I had Karn on the battlefield doing, Tron stuff by himself, just taking over the game. So I didn't feel too threatened by what just happened. So, went ahead, passed it to my opponent. And at this point in time, fairies are just building up, and I'm like, man, I need to, do something else besides just use Karn. And then my opponent goes ahead and casts a Hero's Downfall, which I was not expecting, because you don't see Hero's Downfall played too often in Modern. Maybe it's just because of my lack of playing in, sanctioned tournaments and all that stuff. Usually I'm just on here playing in Mana Traders leagues, or just playing in the, Modern practice lobbies against other opponents. And since I'm mainly doing it for fun, I might miss a decent amount of the super competitive cards out there. But yeah, my opponent cast a Hero's Downfall here, and I remember just thinking to myself, Hero's Downfall? Like, what are the odds, right? But, excellent card, excellent play on my opponent's part. So now I was back to the drawing board because I have nothing in hand that I can cast except for a Blast Zone. But even if I use it, my opponent can still go ahead and kill me. Then I drew a Doubling Season, and since I played Doubling Season first, whenever my Blast Zone enters the battlefield, because it enters with 1 counter, Doubling Season doubles the amount of counters to 2. And I needed 2 counters to go ahead and sacrifice it and destroy Bitter Blossom. So yes, I definitely went ahead and did that there. Also, one thing I ended up noticing is, oh, my opponent only has 2 cards in hand, so I got a little bit excited. Means that I potentially had 2 spells to get countered again, and then I might be able to get something through. Or they don't have a counter spell in hand, and then I can just use that opportunity to try to run away with the game. Especially with a Doubling Season being out on the battlefield now, it means that any Planeswalker that resolves can win the game. Also, another thing that surprised me, I got the Bitter Blossom and I got the spell Stutter Sprite, which was huge in my book because the Sprite I wasn't even paying attention to too much because I was just happy to get rid of Bitter Blossom. I also wanted to cast Bitter Blossom for myself though, because I was thinking to myself, how awesome would it be if I used Bitter Blossom to win against my opponent? But knowing how good Wizard plays, I was also thinking to myself at the same time, I don't want to risk too much and then end up losing because of it. And then lo and behold, guess what? I draw another Doubling Season. And I remember just thinking to myself, oh my goodness. And the Vermilion click here gets rid of my Nahiri. And then I draw a card and I draw into a land. And I'm just like, oh man, that kind of sucks. So, I'll just go ahead and pass to my opponent's turn. Now, I just want to add, this Vermilion click was casted at the end of my turn. So because I moved to the end of my turn, you know, Wizard didn't really have anything to worry about by playing Vermilion Click. Also, I chose to keep the doubling season in hand because I didn't want my opponent to counter it with a cryptic command and then bounce the other one back to my hand. And make me, you know, have to start all over again. So that was my logic on my turn. Also, I wanted to keep my opponent in suspense about what I was trying to do. But then I was like, you know what, they already know what I'm trying to do anyways. I'm just going to go ahead and cast Doubling Season. So I casted it, played an additional land. Now I know for sure the card that I have in hand is a complete mystery to my opponent because they have not seen it yet. But they do have damage on board here that they could keep doing, so I don't think Wizard was too worried here. Especially with lands on tap. I was just thinking in my head, Doubling Season is never gonna work with the Planeswalker because it will always get countered. So I took my only option that I had because I had 6 life left, and it was to go ahead and cast Ugin the Spirit Dragon. And at this point in time, it's just a toss of a coin. Does Wizard have a counter spell or not? And I got hit with a remand there. And I was like, okay, if Wizard plays one more counter spell, the game is won by Wizard. And I was on the edge of my seat here trying to, you know, see what would happen this next turn because I'm like, I really don't want to lose this game. So I go ahead and fetch an Interplanar Beacon there just to gain an additional life. And also, it would make it to where I could cast Tameo here. And if I got something like, you know, a mana leak or something, I would have mana open to where I could actually pay for it. So, go ahead here and pay for Tameo. I ended up messing it up the first time, so I had to retap, do it again. So Tameo cast it here and hits the battlefield. And I just think to myself, yep, I've pretty much got the game now. Since I used Tameo's emblem to draw 3 cards, and I could just go ahead and cast cards for free. And let's see. Here, LDS is just saying, geez, no Emrakul. And Wizard asks, can you win the game from here? But I was thinking to myself, I really don't have a definitive win condition at this point. So I'm going to try to make sure I stay alive for one more turn. So I get Silent Arbiter and put him into play. The logic behind this is, with Silent Arbiter being in play, only one creature can attack. So if the Vermilion... Oh, I keep saying Vermilion, but it's actually Vendilion Click. If the Vendilion Click here attacks by itself, it would only deal 3 damage to me. And since I knew I was casting Ugin next, that would mean I have potentially 1 life left. And I would have to figure it out how to win next turn. But then since I knew I could ultimate Tameo again, that would put me in a pretty good position here. So I go ahead and cast Ugin, and it does not get countered. And like you all can imagine, from then on, I'll get to put 7 permanents into play. And I pretty much combo off and go ahead and start doing Tron things here. I just go ahead and start, you know, making copies of Nicol Bolas, fetching more Planeswalkers, taking infinite turns, and get to the point of casting my opponent's entire deck. And my opponent decided to concede there. Which, hey, the game is won at that point in time, so Wizard definitely was not trying to run away from the game because at this point, the game was over. And Wizard stuck it out, and like you all saw, I got to the point where I was dead in 1 turn, and I was able to just barely come back from teetering on the edge and ended up putting Wizard on the edge. And then ultimately that won me the game. So there were some excellent games. Like, it's hard to not sit here and, be surprised by it. But now you all can see why I said that I am looking forward to game number 3 against Wizard. As soon as I upload game number 3, I'll go ahead and put the link down in the description of this video. That way, you all don't have to, just keep waiting and waiting until we end up getting that rematch. But when we do get that rematch, absolutely looking forward to it. I do hope that I win. You know what I mean? After all, who hopes that they lose, right? But ultimately, LSDWizards, amazing Magic Gathering player. Pretty chill, pretty cool. Like seeing Tron do some Tron stuff. Like seeing some unique decks. And I'm happy to have them as a part of my community. So, Wizard, I appreciate your support. Thanks for checking out my channel. Leaving a comment down there. Hey, all I'm going to say is in that rematch, don't go too easy on me, I know I got a community out there and I got to look good and everything, but it's hard to say anything really, because I know you're a really good player and I'm not expecting you to go easy on me. And if you do, I don't want to know about it. We'll probably have rematches until 2022 at that point, because you're a great opponent to play against. And if you do have any more decks that you play on Magic Online, granted, you see mine here and you see what I've been working with. Mainly, I'm trying to just do Planeswalker stuff. But if you have any more decks that you play, I would absolutely love to play a game against them. That way, I could put them on camera here and share with my community, because you do seem like you have some pretty cool ideas. And you're an exceptional Magic Gathering player, so I'm sure me and my community could learn a lot from you. So thanks for playing these games with us. I appreciate you, saying that you want to share the games with the community by allowing me to upload them. And ultimately, I'm looking forward to the rematch. Alright, let's see where my man Bolus at. Right, there you go. Alright, Wizard, so thank you for letting me upload the content. Looking forward to game number 3. If you want to play on Sunday, I'm working tomorrow, like a 13-14 hour shift. And then on Sunday, all I ask is just let me get some sleep. That way I'm not saying that I'm tired or something when we're playing. And yeah, looking forward to enjoying the rematch against you. All I can say is you might want to get ready, because Tron Walkers is about to become a little more competitive. Because I've decided to not just only focus on fun anymore. I have, been working with my deck long enough to where I do know what cards I need to switch out to make it more competitive. But I like having fun, and I'd rather have fun than be competitive. But at the same time, being competitive never hurt anyone, right? And also, I'm slowly trying to fine-tune this deck over time to where it is modern competitive with most decks. Right now, I think I'm winning against some of the better decks in modern, but I'm also losing against some of the better decks in modern, and losing against some of the decks that have been around for years. So I need to find out what gets me to the point to where I can win those games. Let's see, I'm gonna share a card with you guys for a second. I think I might have brought it up in another one of my videos. But it's just an absolute amazing card, and I really want to see how it incorporates into my deck. And this is a card that was shown to me from someone in my community. And the card is Plain Wide Celebration. Now, The reason why at first this card seems bad is because mana cost, which is horrendous. It is a 7 mana cost card. But it says choose 4. You may choose the same mode more than once. Create a 2/2 citizen creature token that's all colors. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Proliferate. Or gain 4 life. So you could choose one of those 4 times, or just one of them 4 times. I feel like that was weird. You could choose all of those abilities once, or you could choose one of them 4 times. Okay, that sounds better. So yeah, in reality, you pay 7 mana and gain 16 life. That is phenomenally amazing, especially against the Baron deck, since you know Tron has no problem getting mana anyways. All you really need to do is keep 2 chromatic spheres on the battlefield and you gain 16 life. Your opponent now has to figure out how to get you to take an additional 16 damage, which is amazing. Because there have been games where I got the Tron and I still end up losing because, you know, Burn is just kind of over the top. But yeah, I'm thinking about incorporating this card into my deck along with some others. So yeah, my Tron Walker's deck is about to get more competitive, so I hope you all are ready for it. I'll definitely be here to share those changes. And until next time, peeps, I hope you all keep enjoying Modern. If you all have any ideas of cards I should add to my deck, I know Plain White Celebration is one of them. Another one is Manamorphose, which is underestimated by a lot of people. What Manamorphose does is it's 2 mana to play it, a colorless and a red or a green, and it makes 2 mana of any color. So literally it is just a free spell and it ultimately thins out your deck, which means that since going for Tron is the main goal here, it's almost like you have 4 free cards in your deck if you have them. And when you're playing, you know, a bunch of planeswalkers that require colored mana anyways, it just absolutely works. So yeah, those are some cards I'm thinking about incorporating into my deck. I just wanted to share those with you all because it is something I'm thinking about right now, because I can't just stay having fun forever. Like, Tron Walkers has to get competitive at some point. So that is the Tron Walker. How would I even refer to myself? You know, since I named myself Tron Walker and I'm playing the Tron Walkers deck. I guess the good way to say it is, that's my opinion on what I'm planning to do with my Tron Walkers deck. Alright, so until next time, I'm out. Hope you all keep enjoying Magic the Gathering. Got those cool deck ideas? Anything cool? Go ahead and leave it in the comments, and I will absolutely reply to you all. A perfect example is this video, which was requested by LSDWizard. All I'm asking for is that, you know, Wizard, let me know whenever you have time for your rematch and we can make a date. And I'll probably be streaming on Twitch whenever we do play that rematch, but I will absolutely record it and put it here on YouTube. Alright, I gotta go get some sleep, peeps. I was about to say I gotta go get some peep sleep. Alright.